medicine diet, and you think of it as a series of healthy lifestyle swaps. Swap out anti-inflammatories for antacids. Swap out the iron lung for the aluminium lung. Swap out MRI machines for Mary machines, which is just a lady called Mary telling you you're fine.
Obviously, critical shortages are as much part of our daily lives, our society and our culture today as things like football, music and complaining about the weather used to be in the old days. And, well, food shortages, yeah, we just learned to live with them, don't we? And there's a lot of positives as well with all these food shortages. I mean, we were eating too much anyway. As a nation, the government's just helping us live healthier lifestyles. It's so hard to diet on your own, isn't it? You need the support of a friend or a loved one or a government or collapsing social infrastructure. Positive 2, meat, very bad for the environment. So we're actually rebuilding the polar ice caps every time we eat this scrap of lettuce. 3, positive 3, the human race had already cooked all the recipes it needed. There was nothing more to be done with food. We've done that, we can tick it off all the time. I was born with food anyway, been all my life. If you've been doing the same thing 3 times a day, 4, sometimes 7, or 8 times a day, you're bound to get bored. And also, final positive, no more meal times. Frees up all that extra time for appreciating all the selfless hard work that Aldi do to keep us all safe.
Well, as you say, Andy, people are drawn to novelty, and everyone's had breakfast once. Why you gotta keep having it again and again?
Boring, repetitive. Enough about his life that is. You are listening to The Bug. Well, another story that has come to the fore recently is that all European imports have been banned for public health reasons, which is great news. I mean, at least we can get ill eating good, home-produced, locally sourced, British, industrially unsafe food. That's something we can all cling to. Public health reasons, those are curious words. Alice, I don't know, is that in case the public gets too healthy to give up Mediterranean mutton? It's a British food for British tummies. Spelt, nettles, rabbit. That's all we need. That's all we need in the glory days. Everyone round to Nigel's for dinner, yum yum.
Who needs Italian olives when you can eat pickled rubber bands and a soup of regret? Who needs a nice cheese when you can eat a lukewarm, unspecified rat meat pie with 0 spices?
Sand, nettles, and bits of dead fox. That's all we needed to eat in the glory days. Let's make Britain great again. That's all from The Bug today. Good night, sleep tight, and make sure the bed bugs do bite.
Last year, this MP was exposed as corrupt and resigned from office. Fast forward a few months and he's back in politics, this time as a lobbyist, advancing the interests of Bloom, Tidus and Albion. Find out more tonight at GBB.
You're listening to The Bug.
May cause nausea, vomiting and headaches. You're listening to The Bug, the Resistance comedy show brought to you by the Buccaneer Network. I'm Andy, joining me, as always, Alice.
I'm excited to be here. Apparently, the Resistance is not going well.
Again? Well, they're having to move about DedSec, the Resistance and/or terrorist organisation, delete according to preference. Not preference, sorry, delete according to whether or not you work for the government, service, communicators or Aldi. According to CER's official, DedSec is no longer a threat. Which I guess is true, given that it was never a threat in the first place. Reminds me of when my great-aunt Gladys had her appendix out. Oh, Andy, that surgeon's a real threat. Back on that knife at me, trying to knock me out. They put a scalpel in an anaesthetic, Gladys. Anyway, if CER's officials say DedSec is dead and buried, I guess we have to assume that DedSec has never been stronger. But I do worry, Alice. I mean, sometimes I think, is there any hope? Do you choose to have hope?
I don't think I'm allowed to have hope. We're living in this self-selected, algorithmically designated information equivalent of a propaganda state, and every resistance that I've ever seen is weaker than the British pound. I feel like hope is an expensive thing to buy these days.
Right. I mean, is it all totally pointless? Well, it can feel pointless, but then again, I've spent almost all of my life doing pointless things like watching sport, thinking about sport, thinking about watching sport, learning French and hoping for a better future. All completely pointless. But yeah, I've done them, so we might as well carry on. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Yes, I think there is. Unfortunately, what is that light? Is it an oncoming train? Well, no, it couldn't be. Obviously, that train would be late or cancelled. Is the light at the end of the tunnel a burning effigy of the concept of hope? May well be that. Is it the ego of Nigel Cass that is now so big that it's sucked all the light in the universe into itself? I think that it is most likely. Is that, but we'll never give up, Bug fans. This resistance will never die. And one day, we will again be free. Free from these technological chains, free to choose our own futures, free to live our own lives, free to waste our time watching people bake cakes and dance badly again. Those were the days. Hooray. Before we go, time for a quick bug off. I'm going to nominate this week Sky Larson here at the Bug. We are all in favour of strong, powerful women. And in many ways, Sky is the ultimate feminist icon, proving that women can do just as abominably awful things to this planet as men. I mean, overall, Alice, I think we're still ahead as men, but you lot are catching up. Fair play. Fair play to you. You are listening to The Bug.
After yet another death in custody, an increasing number of critics are accusing Albion of systematic prisoner maltreatment. Join us on GBB for a thorough examination of the conditions for prisoners in detention.
Coming up in today's episode of The Upload, we're talking about how Bagley managed to conquer London. Pretty much my favourite topic. I could talk for hours about the rise of the AI system. It's easy to forget about its origins. It's so present everywhere we go now. Bagley just kind of blends into the background.
Bagley is the service AI that's present in every Optic device. Whether you're using the Optic, Bagley will be there. The AI is streamed to your Optic from Bloom Central Command Center, and it was first created by Sky Larson, our tech hero, as part of her techno-utopian idea for the world. Why do you think it grew so quickly?
In my mind, it's no surprise that Bagley became so popular. It's funny, useful, fast. It's a great companion and really just makes life so much easier. I mean, when you look back at all the service AIs that used to exist, they just can't compete. When you ask Bagley anything, there's a quick answer and loads of information available to you. One day, I let Bagley answer all of my messages for a whole 24 hours and no one even noticed the difference.
The other competitors really just couldn't compete with Bagley. Their answers were so much worse. They didn't understand anything, and Bagley pretty much gets everything right first time. Do you have any idea why Bagley really beat all the competition?
Well, it's really the data, isn't it? Ever since Broker hooked up with Bloom, that's when things changed.
And really, that's not actually that great. Bloom has data on everybody. They collect information about everything you're doing across the web through your Optic headset. Isn't the AI only good because of Bloom surveillance?
Well, I suppose so, but I prefer not to talk about that side of things. Bagley is so special because it's been trained on this huge cache of information. That's how these AI systems work, or at least used to work. I mean, we don't really know that much about the latest version because there's so much secrecy around the tech. But they're given this huge amount of training data. It's basically a huge database that's used to teach the AI about patterns in behavior. You know, so if you always travel the same way to your house, it can predict when you're going to go and get a self-driving car ready for you before you even ask for it.
That's pretty terrifying. In some ways, I don't want this data to drive my life. It understands too much at times. Have you heard some of the rumours around the hacked version of Bagley?
I've heard mutterings, yes.
I've heard it's been used by DedSec.
I wouldn't put it past them. It's pretty well known that they're not fans of Bloom. But the idea of a souped-up version of Bagley, given it's already so intelligent, is a bit terrifying.
I wonder what they can actually make it do.
You're listening to The Bug.
Nibbling away on the rotting carcass of a once free Britain. Hello, resistors, this is The Bug, keeping the fire of hope alive in the vacuum of today's Britain. Okay, fires don't burn in vacuums. It's a little novelty Christmas light, shaped like a flame, but it's something. It is something to cling to. Joining me, as always, is Alice. And Alice, hold the front page. Technology apparently is here to stay. There's no way around that now. Much as I'd like to go back to the 18th century and see if we can have another crack at the Industrial Revolution and get it later on this time. But new tech is creating 4,000 jobs. Count them all, 4,000. 4,000 new jobs. Thanks to this new tech investment.
I mean, that's a very exciting thing if you're someone who wants to work in the tech sector, but I can only assume that this tech investment has created 4,000 jobs that will immediately be taken by robots.
Even if they're not, there'll be jobs that no one in their right sane mind would actually want to do, but that's the price of progress, I guess. And we have to embrace the way technology is taking over everything, because maybe this is a ray of hope for us in this dark universe, that technology will in fact render us all obsolete, and we won't need humans at all, because look at the bad things that are happening now. What is the common denominator behind all of them?
I don't know, Andy, tell me.
All the bad things that are happening now, all the bad things that have ever happened, all involved human beings. They're always involved whenever anything goes wrong from the very dawn of time. And think of this, an automated Nigel Cass, surely a step up on the human Nigel Cass. You could even program it to have a tiny, tiny sliver of conscience. And if you had an automated prime minister, you could program it to be occasionally in the middle of the country. So that's, again, it's a step forward.
Again, I insist that there's never been a Prime Minister, Andy. I've never seen him, I've never heard of him. The only times I ever hear what the Prime Minister does is when nothing happens.
I mean, it has reached the point where, and I've thought this for a long time, we would be better off if the Prime Minister was watermelon. No, it would be, I think we'd all be happy with that. We'd all know where we stood.
You hear him being praised for his diplomatic skills all the time, but the best mark of diplomacy is when nothing happens. So good diplomacy is indistinguishable from him doing absolutely nothing.
You are listening to The Bar. 4,000 new dream jobs for everyone. All I can say, Alice, is that I'm very glad that my children studied drama at school, because that has set them up for life in modern Britain. That is the one core skill they need, the ability to pretend that they are living happy and fulfilled lives, that they have jobs that are worth doing, and that they're making the planet a better place, and that they control their own destinies, and that they have even a parody of a private life, and that they can smile without crying. That's what drama teaches them to do. Crucial skills in this day and age. Of course, it's not just the jobs that have been technologicalised beyond all recognition. It is also all reality. Thanks once again to Optic. According to Bloom, the Optic system is now the most secure it's ever been. And, well, of course, I mean, it's so convenient, Optic, isn't it? It saves us so much time and hassle trying to exist in the kind of realm of reality. I don't even need to bother with that. I mean, sure, the government has hacked into my soul and now basically knows everything I thought. But at least I don't have to type where's my nearest coffee shop into a search engine. At least I don't have to waste anything between 8 and 12 seconds every day going online to look up how to make a bowl of muesli. And at least I'm not frittering away my precious mental energies thinking, what do I actually think?
Optic is so secure, Andy. It's more secure than a teenage girl reading a women's magazine. It's more secure than a comedian with a drinking problem. It's more secure than a young man who's just got his first motorcycle license.
Finally, before we go today, bug off to the Prime Minister, who has once again FRO'd to who knows where this week. He sure as hell is not here in London. I remember back in the day, Alice, when our Prime Ministers were either incompetent or crooked, but not both at once. But actually, no, I can't remember them being both at once. But incompetent, crooked, and not even in the country. That is one impressive triple whammy. I've had Lions longer than his longest spell on British soil in this last year. It's this halfway house I can't stand. Either come back and do your job or leave the planet entirely. I'm pretty sure there must be a spare space station knocking around where he can go and entertain himself for the rest of the time. Can we crowdfund it? Tell him, let's make cryptocurrency out of something, crowdfunding that way. What have you got spare? Jelly beans, are they still legal?
He's away so often, Andy. I'm starting to think he doesn't like the country.
That is all from the bug today. Fly away, bugs. We are done.
As the pound continues its slide against global currencies, there's never been a cheaper time to visit London. So why is tourism at a 10-year low? Tonight, GBB looks at London through the eyes of a visitor. And it's a wake-up call.
This is London Calling. You're listening to Buccaneer, your source for what they don't want to know. With me, Tash. It's hard to believe that there could be shortages of food and medicine in an advanced country like ours, and yet here we are. Those old government promises of adequate food turned out to be just another lie. Today we're short of basic foodstuffs and vital medical supplies. Hundreds have already died of conditions that could be easily cured. The black market means that criminal gangs like Clan Kenny run our cities. And Prime Minister Dev Hassani isn't even around to pretend to care. How do we go from consumer paradise to a place of empty shelves, fighting for supplies? What turns a land of plenty into a wild west of hoarding, food battles and black market barons? We protect everyone who comes on the podcast by keeping their identities a secret. Here's veteran political reporter Ian on the power behind shortages.
I mean, what was the first thing that happened when Britain sealed itself off? And the first stuff that stopped from coming in was fresh food. I mean, we could live without fresh food. I mean, everyone's quality of life got instantly worse, but we could live without it. The most damaging part was when the radioactive isotopes stopped coming. Now, radioactive isotopes, that's what we use in cancer screening, cancer treatment. Now, that stuff, it has a short half-life. Technetium used to save hundreds of thousands of lives just by screening for cancer, let alone testing for cancer. But that stuff has a half-life of 66 hours. As soon as those rules went up, there was just no time to bring it into the country, and that is when people started dying. And then the medicines. The thing is, there's loads of medicines that you just can't stockpile. There was a moment before it took place when actually there was some effort to try and stockpile some of the medicines. There was some things that could be done. For a lot of it, there was simply nothing that could be done. We had a major problem with drugs for schizophrenia. So we saw such an uptick in the kind of attacks that you saw in the street and people suffering on their own because they didn't have the mental health drugs, because those drugs simply couldn't be stockpiled. We eventually found the same thing with foods that weren't produced in the UK. And the trouble with the UK was we don't produce our own food. We never have. For hundreds of years, we produced under half of our own food. So as soon as those wars went up, we started having significant material problems. Like Britain always told itself it had this national right, that because it got through the war, that it could go through any kind of hardship. I mean, that wasn't really the case. Actually, people during the war were far more frightened than some of this historical stuff makes out. Now, what did we see? People don't want to go through that stuff. They were desperate for the things that they had before, and they were scared. So they went to the black market. The same thing that always happens. And where did the growth of Clan Kelly come from? It came from people wanting things that they could previously get legitimately and could now only get through the black market, funneling funds towards criminality. And from there, we got to the situation we have now of this bizarre war between criminals and security that seems to dominate what's going on out there on the streets.
Nothing shakes people's faith in capitalism quite as much as when capitalism fails to deliver. Here's underground writer and analyst Alfie, The Politics of Poverty.
I think what we've come to now is a realisation that capitalism's essentially failed. I mean, one key promise of capitalism that it makes to its citizens is that there will be surplus, that we will have plenty, and that's the whole logic for running society in this way, that people will have enough. And now, with these kind of huge shortages of everything, you're seeing that system collapse. It hasn't delivered on its primary promise. And I think we've really reached a situation where we have to do away with capitalism entirely. We're seeing a situation where there's shortages for the many, but for a few individuals, there's an elite who